Hello and welcome to this week's episode of NFL Preview for Week 9. I'm your host Jordan on the Slant, and this week we're going to start out with the Thursday night game. We're going to get right into it because the game is about to kick off as I'm watching it now, and I'm going to take the Packers in this game for obvious reasons. The San Francisco 49ers had a few positive COVID tests this week, and they're also decimated by injury, and they don't have their starting quarterback. That is a mix for no success, especially playing a Green Bay team that got embarrassed by the Minnesota Vikings last week. So I'd look for Green Bay to come out strong, come out fast, come out playing quick. But most of all, I'd look for them to really capitalize, especially late in game, on guys that are getting play time that usually don't. And it'll be a pretty easy win for the Packers, especially in the second half. But I hope the 49ers can make it a fun game for Thursday night watchers, but that is really all I have for that game just because it's not much going on. So I want to make sure we got that out of the way first because the game is just about to kick off, and I don't want anybody to say I flip-flopped my pick. If I was betting on it, I would easily take Packers money line as the safest bet you can actually make this week. So moving on from that, let's take a look at this week's slate of games and see what we have out there and what we have to look forward to this coming Sunday night, and Monday. So without further ado, let's get moving. First game we'll go over this week is going to be the Texans at Jaguars. The Texans come into this game as a 5.5-point favorite. It is a 1 p.m. game on Fox. Check your local networks. It definitely won't be on here in North Carolina because we will have the Panthers on Fox. So the Texans and Jaguars is actually a pretty intriguing game, not only because they both suck, but more so because the Texans are actually playing decent football lately, which is nice to see post Bill O'Brien. But also the Jaguars have been competitive in almost every game they've played this year, but they're going to be without a key piece, and that's their starting quarterback, Gardner Minshew, who actually hurt his hand in practice, or not in practice, but a few weeks ago, and he's been battling through it. And that's really been a big difference maker for Jacksonville. Not having Gardner at 100% is already not good because that team they've put around him isn't great. So look for the Jaguars to rely on James Robinson, who really has been a revelation for them this year. He's been amazing at running back, actually outproducing Leonard Fournette, which has been a surprising sight to see, not only because I picked him up in fantasy as just a flyer on a guy, but he turned out to be good, but also because he was an undrafted free agent, and he's really just made a name for himself while the Jaguars have been bad this year. Then you look at the Texans. They had a big week this week surrounding a bunch of trade controversy with Will Fuller, people wondering if he was going to get dealt, where he was going to get dealt, or even how he was going to get dealt. That was a big question going into this week for the Texans, and I think they've answered that pretty well by not only not trading Will Fuller, but by staying silent mostly on the forefront. You know, if they had Bill O'Brien, that they would have dealt somebody somehow, some way. But more importantly, the Texans still have Deshaun Watson. They still have J.J. Watt. And they still have some difference makers on both sides of the ball where they can play competitive with almost anyone. People need to remember this team was up on the Chiefs last year like 24 points in the divisional round before the Chiefs just went on a run. So, I don't quite get what people don't see in the Texans. They do have David Johnson. They do have Duke Johnson. And they do have some weapons at wide receiver. They have Brandon Cooks, Will Fuller, like we've discussed, Deshaun Watson. So, I think the Texans will win this game pretty easily, especially with the Jaguars going to their backup quarterback. There's no reason to believe the Texans won't win, and there's no reason to believe they will not cover, honestly. This is just a game where the Texans should roll. So moving on, we'll go to the Giants at the Washington football team. Washington is a 3.5-point favorite, which is pretty generous, I would say. That's a pretty big line for a team that really hasn't been good this year. Besides, the whole NFC East has not been good this year. Nobody has looked good. The best the Giants looked all year was on Monday night when they got beat by the Buccaneers in a game that was closer than it ever should have been. So, I mean, if you look at the Giants, they have so much dysfunction, it seems, on that team every year. Now Golden Tate is going to be cut. He wants to be traded. He's having issues in the locker room. His wife's posting online about him not getting the ball more. Joe Judge is being open about, hey, we want everybody to be a team player, and saying he's disciplining guys in-house. It just has been a train wreck of a year for the Giants. And not to mention, Daniel Jones loves throwing turnovers. There's no other way to go about it. The dude cannot not turn the ball over. He either fumbles it away or throws it away or finds some funny way to just not be great. He will have flashes of brilliance, and then the next moment he forgets how the game of football is played. So, I mean, it's really frustrating for Giants fans, I bet. But also it's frustrating to watch just because he has the talent you see. He makes throws sometimes where you just think, wow, that was an amazing throw. But then there's other moments where you're like, oh, yeah, this dude, he's definitely a inconsistent guy. So, I mean, I'll look for Washington to win. I don't know if it'll be 3.5. I feel like it'll be a pretty close game because both these teams suck. Washington's going to have Kyle Allen starting, and he's on that Kyle Allen roller coaster ride right now where it's near the top, where he looks good, he shows flashes. And so, I mean, look for Washington to honestly try and pound the ball in the running game. They ran the ball well their last game. And also look for the Washington defense to step up. They have some good guys on that defense. Jack Del Rio is a great coordinator, and Ron Rivera is a defensive guy. And Ron just finished his chemo treatment for his cancer. And so I guarantee you the Washington football team is going to be playing inspired football come Sunday. That game is also at 1 o'clock, but is on CBS. And then we go to the Ravens at the Colts. I like the Ravens, just going to come out and say it. Their defense is really good, even if Lamar is having kind of a down year compared to his MVP season last year, which would be hard to repeat for anybody. So, I mean, the Ravens are a 3-point favorite. I like them even more than that. You know, I may actually bet this game and take Ravens money line at -3. But the Colts are a scrappy team. They play great defense. They just got their all-pro middle linebacker back. The offense is an offense. Phillip Rivers is Phil Rivers, where he has weeks where you're like, man, this dude is great. And then other weeks where you're thinking, is it time for Jacoby Brissett? Phil Rivers is just one of those guys at this point in his career where you hope you get him every week in a good day, but you know that you're going to get some games where he's just not having his best stuff. So, I mean, I like the Ravens, even though the Colts have a good defense. I just think the Ravens will wear thin on the Colts after a while and walk away really with it late in the game and be about a 10-point win. Next is Lions at Vikings, and we did get breaking news today that Matthew Stafford will be out this week with COVID. His wife actually posted all of them have COVID, so hopefully they have a speedy recovery in the Stafford household. So the Lions and the Vikings, I liked the Vikings before that. I really like the Vikings now, just because they looked good last week. Dalvin Cook is great. That guy can run the ball. He can catch the ball and run after he catches it. He initiates contact and runs well after contact. I mean, there's nothing not to like about Dalvin Cook. And even more so, the Vikings are a 3-point favorite. I think that's being generous, especially with the Stafford news. The Vikings should run away with this one. And that game is on CBS at 1 o'clock. Next is Bears at Titans. I like the Titans in this one. They've had a rough couple of weeks where they've kind of come down back to earth, and you got to wonder, are they going to get back to the form they were in, or were they frauds? And they're not going to want to be labeled a fraud. And coincidentally, that's who they're playing as a fraud team, is the Bears on the other side. The Bears can't score. It's that simple. They cannot score. The offense looks bad. The defense keeps them in games, but the offense loses them games. And it hasn't gotten any better as the season has went on. Nick Foles has not looked that good. Mitch Trubisky, we know, did not look good and is not that good. So what the Bears do at this point, I don't know. The defense is great. They'll keep you in any game, but also at the same token, the offense has to be able to produce at some point. So I'll take the Titans in this one. Ryan Tannehill really has been good this year. Derrick Henry is Derrick Henry. He's a great running back. He's one of the top 3 backs in the league. And then they have some decent weapons at wide receiver. The offensive line is a question with Taylor Lewan being out for the year and not being able to protect Tannehill. So we'll see how things go from here. But I look forward to the Titans taking control of this game early and often and controlling it to the end. The Titans are a 5.5-point favorite. I think it will be a close game just because that's what the Bears do is play close games. But I'd stay away from this one if I was a gambling guy. So keep that in your back pocket. Next, we have Panthers at Chiefs. Now, this game is one where the Chiefs are a 12.5-point favorite. And honestly, I don't care what point favorite the Chiefs were. I would take them no matter what. It's not a slight against the Panthers. I know Matt Rule was really looking for a signature win against a big-time opponent, but I don't see it happening this week. The Chiefs are really good, and where they're really good is the Panthers' weakness. They can run the ball. They have a great offense. Everybody knows who Patrick Mahomes is and the arm he has. He can carve you up anywhere, anytime. The Panthers have struggled to guard opposing teams' tight ends. Travis Kelce is the best in the game. Look for him and Mahomes to be connecting all day long. And then Tyreek Hill, McCole Hardman, Sammy Watkins is out this week. But the Chiefs have weapons, and that's the point of this, is they have weapons that match up against bad places on the Panthers' defense. And so look for the Panthers' defense to struggle. They're already a young group of guys. They are getting Rasul Douglas back this week, which should be a good boost for them. But even then, I just don't see the Panthers coming away with an upset win this week. The Chiefs are a 12.5-point favorite. I like them on their money line. 12.5 points is a lot, especially because the Panthers have been in every game they played this year. Even though they're due for a letdown, it's just one of those games that I'd stay away from on the spread, but I would definitely take Chiefs money line, and the over-under is 50.5. I take the over in that too. I think that's going to be a good high-scoring game, depending on the weather in Kansas City. So I'd take a look at that before you place that bet. Next is Seahawks at the Bills, and this is a game I'm really excited for that I wish wasn't on at 1 o'clock so I could watch it and the Panthers on Sunday. But the Seahawks are really good. They don't play any normal games, so I'd expect that trend to continue. This will probably be a really close game. The Bills have a great defense, while the Seahawks have a great offense. Russell Wilson is spectacular. He has good weapons. He's got Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf, good running backs. But the biggest question for the Seahawks is their defense, because it's just not that good. I know they don't have Jamal Adams right now, but even when they did, the defense wasn't great, and they're going to need that defense to get better if they really want to contend down the road. So, I mean, I would look for it to be a close game. It is at the Bills, even though the Seahawks are a 2.5-point favorite. So look for this to be a close game. I actually like the Bills to upset the Seahawks this week, especially after that win against New England last week, to kind of say, hey, it's the Bills' time now. I really think that they're going to beat Seattle this week, even though Seattle's a favorite. The over-under is 51.5. I'd stay away from that and just take Bills plus 2.5 or Bills money line, because that's definitely going to be able to net you some cash if you win. The last game in the 1 o'clock slate we're going to be looking at is the Broncos at the Falcons. Now, this is a game that I have no idea what's going to happen. The Falcons are like the biggest chokers in sports history. The Broncos are so inconsistent. I mean, there's times where Drew Lock looks great, and then there's other times where you're just like, this Drew Lock guy, I don't know. So Falcons are a 4.5-point favorite. I actually like the Falcons to win this, which probably means they're going to get killed. If I ever like the Falcons, it never goes well for me, except last week I did have Falcons straight up beating the Panthers, and cha-ching, that one cashed for me. So thanks for nothing, Atlanta, except that. And we'll just move on from that game because I don't think anybody even cares, honestly, about the Falcons and the Broncos. I'm picking the Falcons. They'll probably lose. It's that simple. So next, we're going to move on to the late afternoon games. We have Raiders at Chargers at 4:05. Chargers are a 1.5-point favorite, which I think is pretty generous just because the Chargers have been in every game this year and lost. And the Raiders are actually really good. They have had a tough schedule, and they have made the most out of it, which is what's been so amazing. Is Derek Carr has looked like a pretty decent quarterback. The receivers look good. The defense is looking good. Josh Jacobs is a stud at running back. So, I mean, who knows what will happen in this game. The Raiders are due to lay an egg. The Chargers are due to lay an egg. I think the Raiders will actually win, so I'd take them as an underdog. They're plus 1.5. I'd definitely take the plus 1.5 or just the money line straight up. And I think the Raiders will win this one. I love Justin Herbert. I said at the draft I love Justin Herbert, and everybody told me, oh, you're crazy. He won't be any good. He's proven the doubters wrong, and he's proven me right, which I'm always happy to say. So I like Justin Herbert. They have some good weapons. Keenan Allen's good. Mike Williams. They have good running backs. The defense is pretty decent, but they're just the Chargers, man. They're the Falcons of the AFC. They find ways to lose games when you don't think there is any way. So moving on, we have Dolphins at Cardinals. I don't know who to pick in this one. That is really a tough game just because the Cardinals can look great one week and bad the next, and the Dolphins are really a frisky team. That defense is good. The offense was pretty decent with Fitzpatrick, and the move to Tua last week didn't look great offensively, so hopefully after a week he's settled in and they have the offense clicking more. I like the Dolphins in this game. They're a 4.5-point dog to the Cardinals, and I would take the Dolphins this week. I really like them this week. I might bet that one myself. That's at 425 on Fox, so check your local listings to see if you have it. Next is Steelers at Cowboys. This is the game of the week, and just let me say, I think the Fox network is just trying to air a murder on national TV Sunday, and that's going to be the Steelers and the Cowboys. The Steelers are going to crush the Cowboys. It's rumored they're going to be starting another quarterback in Dallas. And the Steelers are rolling. They're undefeated and hadn't even lost a game. So I'd look, if you had any Steelers in fantasy, play them. They're going to run over Dallas this week. The Cowboys are not very good. Mike McCarthy looks lost on the coaching staff. And then even the players don't look good. You didn't realize how much Dak Prescott was holding that team together until now. And all right, let's move on to the next game. We have Saints at Buccaneers. This is really going to be a good game. It's Sunday Night Football, and I'm really looking forward to it. As a Panthers fan, I know we probably won't win the division this year, so I can watch this one and look at the team who probably will, and that's going to be fun to me because the Saints are good. The Buccaneers are good, and they had a good game to start the season. It was rough for Tom Brady, but it was a good game nonetheless. It's at 8:20 on NBC. You'll see Carrie Underwood singing her song before the game. It's just not that good, but that's a story for another day. The Buccaneers are 4-point favorites. I think that's very generous, and I really do think this game will come down to a field goal at the end. And Will Lutz always seems to make those field goals. So I actually like the Saints as an underdog to win this one. I want to pick the Buccaneers, but they didn't look good Monday night, and you just don't know what they're going to do come Sunday night. It should be a good game. It should be fun, and I'm really looking forward to it. So Sunday Night Football should be a good game this week. Take the Saints. I'm betting the Saints as an underdog because I really think they're going to come out and win this week. They need to make up that ground in the division, and they know if they win this game, they'll have both wins over the Bucs this year and own the tiebreaker. That will be huge down the road if this divisional race stays close. So look for the Saints to upset the Buccaneers this week. And lastly, that leads us to the Patriots at the Jets on Monday Night Football on ESPN with the Patriots as a 7.5-point favorite, which I kind of like. I know they haven't been good this year, and I know Cam Newton has not been as advertised. He was good the first few weeks, but after he got COVID, it just threw things off, and I don't know what's going on up in New England. Everybody knows they are missing several playmakers. They're missing key guys, but even more so, Cam has really failed to make some of the throws he normally would make. And so, look for him to really try and perform better. He's a very hard critic on himself, and he wants to be the best he can, and he wants to succeed. So look for him to try his best to do that. But even more so, look for Cam Newton to come out and use this game as a get-right game. The Jets aren't good. Adam Gase is going to get fired. It's a matter of when, if not if. And so, the Jets just suck. They're frisky at times. Sam Darnold can keep them in games, but the defense isn't good. The locker room seems lost. The Jets franchise seems lost. Nobody wants to play there. Nobody wants to go there, especially with Adam Gase as your head coach. Look for the Patriots to roll Monday night. If you have Cam Newton in fantasy, it's time. Put him back in your lineup. He's going to prove a lot of doubters wrong this week. But even more so, look for the Patriots just to come out and dominate this game from start to finish. 7.5 is a lot on the spread. I would stay away from that, but take the Patriots straight up on the money line because I really think they're going to be able to come away with a win this week. that is our Week 9 preview. As always, thank you so much for listening to this podcast. I really do appreciate all the listeners who actually listen. I see who listens, or I don't see who listens, but I see the listens I get, and I see the number growing every week. I do want to say thank you to a couple new Patreons this week. Thank you for subscribing and being a donor. I appreciate it, and all the money that is earned from Patreon will come back and be part of this podcast, but take it into a bigger form. We're going to start as soon as COVID ends, or when we have the opportunity to go out and do interviews. We're going to try our best also to get a camera here shortly so that we can slant the streets and get people's opinions and see what's going on out there in the world. So thank you, as always, for listening. I really do appreciate it, and it really does mean a lot to me knowing I have people that listen to this podcast and value what I say. And even if you don't value what I say, thank you for listening. I really do appreciate it. Go Panthers. Keep pounding. Remember, set your fantasy lineups before 12 o'clock on Sunday just to make sure and check for inactives. But most of all, have a good night. Have a good week, have a good day, have a good morning whenever you're listening to this. But thank you so much for listening to the Slant. That's a wrap for the Week 9 preview. And make sure you listen Sunday night for our fastest few minutes, which will be a brand new segment I'm going to try and start. It'll be fun. It'll be weird probably for some of you, but it's going to be fun. And I really hope you'll come back to listen to that. Again, thank you and have a good night.